your injuries, right? And you've had some. You wear a freaking helmet. You've had some concussions. When was the first time you had a concussion, and maybe when was the worst?
Well, I don't know when the first time I've hit my head is, and I don't know if that goes with hitting my head, but I would say the first, bad one.
Yeah.
At nationals, I think a lot happened. I think I hit my head really hard, and it kind of like just really shocked me how hard I hit my head. And like if you like go back to that one, my mouthpiece flies out of my mouth, and a lot of it was just like maybe in the moment if you gave me a couple minutes, I probably could have kept wrestling, but it was just like I was so like out of it. And our trainer came over and was like, "Hey, do you want to get out of here?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea." And then once I got out of the arena, I was like, "Did I just forfeit my match?" Like I had no idea what was really going on. And that would I would say like it was the most like in the moment, like, oh, what just happened? Like really just like blank mind. And they did the, concussion protocol. And I honestly, think that I would have been better off not doing that. And looking back at, that whole event. But with all the concussions in general, a lot of them stem from which was just, me trying to do a throw or me back arching or trying to send something backwards and just basically bonking myself on my head. So it happened, a couple times, even in that tournament, and even at this past journeyman, it happened again. So the goal was to stay away from that position, not to be in bad positions where I can get thrown on my head. So that's kind of the goal for the rest of the season. But that I would say definitely at nationals was the head injury that I was like, that one actually kind of like shook me at first. I really was like stunned by that. Like saw greens and blues, was just kind of out of it, and then dialed back in like a couple seconds later, like, oh, we're wrestling, and then went to the back room, sat there, got checked out, walked all the way back to the arena, walked all the way through everyone else wrestling. I don't even remember who was, but walking, weaving in between mats like a junior league tournament to get to my mat to get ready to wrestle the last half of my match. And I kind of remember being like this weird feeling of like urgency, which I didn't need to have. I could have just, taken my time, got off bottom. Like I was winning, I didn't need to spaz out or be worried or anything. And I tended to, wrestle as if I was losing the rest of that match and resulted in me losing. So not the best. I would say that was definitely the most, memorable head injury, if that's not a whatever the opposite thing is.
Well, it's a tricky situation because you bang your head, whoever, right? Like somebody bangs their head, and you're like, that hurt, but the instinct is keep going. We're wrestling. The reality is, I might be fine, but the reality is, I might not be, right? And how much damage could be done if I keep going versus should I get checked out? And where there's a really gray line there somewhere in the middle. So it's probably, even though you said maybe you should have stayed on the mat, maybe it was best to go get checked out. It's hard to
Yeah.
say. But that was that against Cardenas?
Yeah, so that was the first. So that match was
Or the
going all
quarters?
right. I got a first period takedown super late. Like I think I took him down in the first period with like uh 8 seconds left. I went single leg and I limp armed and like scramble, caught a takedown. And I picked bottom the next period and he put a piss ride on me and was doing a great job. And I was about to get out. I was halfway through the period. I was about to get out. And I reached back from like this, I would say rear standing position. And I was in like this over and under, but my arm was trapped. And I was kind of falling over towards like an inside trip. And we were right on the edge. And I'm thinking, okay, if I can, throw myself out of bounds, that would be smart, get a fresh start. Or I can try to inside trip him and get a takedown, or I'm going to get crunched to my back. So those are the three kind of options I'm thinking about right now. And obviously, I don't want to get crunched to my back. I don't like those odds. Daniel Cardenas is strong. He's shorter than me. Like, definitely a good position to put someone on their back. So I'm thinking I'm going to send this. I'm just going to throw him as hard as I can. And he just doubled down, and I went straight into the ground. And, like, all of his weight – I remember I actually – this you can't even really see it, but this, like, scar right here is from that because his, like, shoulder and everything came right down on my face. And – it was just a lot of instead of like bonking heads or clipping someone's head. It was like he threw his whole body on top of my head. And, that's why I think I was just so out of it and just like so discombobulated.
Really interesting that sequence you just described. You're like, we're on the edge, and this is all like that. You're like, I thought about this option, and this. I throw him, go out of bounds, inside trip, and then he's too like. Are you thinking all these things real quick, or is this kind of like reflecting on it, realizing that's what you thought? I'm trying to get into how people's brains work during a match.
Yeah. I would say definitely in the moment. Like there's times where I'm thinking about wrestling and it's not helping me. And there's times where I'm thinking about wrestling and it's a positive thing. But I also think there's a state of wrestling where I'm just, computing as I'm wrestling almost like you're just kind of flowing, but I'm making notice of what decisions I'm making. So I think it was less of a this, and that. I think it was like I went kind of thought about inside tripping and I'm like, oh, he's got me locked up. Like there's no other option other than to go back right now. And I think it's more of just like, cross out, if it was a multiple choice answer, cross this answer out, cross this answer out, and all of the above, I guess, and just send it.
Yeah, and so that's NCAA's. That's an emotional round. You win in the quarters. You're guaranteed All-American. You're one match from being in the finals. It's like, but if you lose in the quarters, it's like, okay, well, the dream of winning's gone, and now I'm on the backside, and I'm down, or I'm you got to deal with the disappointment, but shake it off, and I still got to, explain to me maybe emotionally getting yourself back to go, and that would, I guess you still had to wrestle again. This would have been Friday, if I remember. So you had to wrestle, like, explain to me losing and how you got yourself back, and you strung together probably 3 or 4 more wins.
Yeah, so I think I think the round was over that. Like I didn't wrestle immediately after that. So
Yeah.
we go back to the hotel, and I remember wanting to see my mom and dad, and my mom comes, gives me a hug, and she's all upset. Dream got crushed a little bit. Head injury, a lot's going on. And
Yeah.
I'm in my teammate's room, and I give my mom a hug. I'm like, "Where's my dad?" And my dad comes in, and like the first thing that he said to me was like, "Oh yeah, you're done, right? Like you're forfeiting out." And I'm like, "Oh, I appreciate you seeing how I am." And he's like, he was just so worried about my head. And this is not the first time I've hit my head. And he's always, the number one concern is health.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about the wrestling. And
Baby.
yeah, and it was just tough, hearing someone tell me that, like, who I love so much, basically to just fold all my cards. And it was just a lot at the moment. It's like, I really can't, Dad. Like this means a lot more than me just to, to All-American. It takes one match to All-American. So then I kind of had this, back and forth discussion with my family of like, I'm going to wrestle. And they're like, well, if you're going to wrestle, you gotta wrestle. And I'm like, well, obviously, like, I'm not going to just go out there and, throw it out the, window. And, I also talked to, one of my high school coaches, and he said basically the same thing. And, he was always one of the guys to be like extra, like, if you're hurt, just wrestle. And he was like, you know what, Meyer, like, I really want you to know that, like, I don't even feel comfortable with you wrestling, but if you're telling me that you're okay and you're going to get the job done, I'll trust you. And I remember going into that, blood round match, and I didn't even think it was a blood round match. Like I warm up, and I remember just being so angry that I didn't win against Cardenas. Like I just remember being so like, no way this is how the year is going to end. Like I don't win. Like I was like, almost delusional before the tournament that I was going to win. I was roommates with Vito. Like I was like, I'm going to win this tournament with Vito. Like that was the plan.
Yeah.
And like, even when I went back to my hotel room, I told Vito that I lost, and he was like, oh yeah, what happened? I lost. And he was like, oh, you lost. Oh, like you weren't joking. Okay. Sorry. Roll over, take
Whoops.
a nap. Like, yeah. But we were on the backside, and I remember literally like winning my All-American match, and like obviously being excited, but not being excited that I All-American, but just being excited that I like wrestled well. Like not even like I think I would have been more mad if I just wrestled bad, and I would have probably not have been as happy. Like I was just happy that I wrestled a really tough match, and it was right after something bad happened. So I think I was just very, excited to feel it's like, oh, like it's on. Like we're going all the way. And, maybe if that didn't go well, I would have forfeited. I don't know. But, like obviously if I would have won and didn't feel as good, maybe that would have changed it. But during that time, even in that match, that blood round match is an awesome match. That's actually probably one of the craziest matches. I wrestled Johnny Lovett from Central Michigan. It was Coach Borelli's last college match as head coach of Central Michigan. I'll say this now. I had a feeling they just wanted Central Michigan to be All-American so bad. I go out. By the way, Johnny Lovett is the strongest person I've ever wrestled. He comes out, boom, boom, underhooks, literally tosses me up in the air. And I'm just like, oh, I'm turning around in the air behind me. Okay, I'm rear standing, no takedown yet. How do I get out of this? I hit some crazy switch, go out of bounds, perfect. That happened 3 times. I got out of 2 of them where he just would jack me up with underhooks and like throw me into the air. And I would literally just end up in rear stand. Like he would just throw me around. And the 3rd time he actually got the takedown. But I just remember like this crazy match. And it's a really awesome match because he's very close to scoring on me a lot of times. But I seem to do literally the silliest. Like I literally think I go like leg knee bar switch to get a stalemate so he didn't take me down. Like something crazy. And towards the end of the match, I'm riding him and he starts like headbutting me from like reverse, like from bottom. And I remember getting super mad. And like I definitely ride chippy on top where I'm chopping you hard cross facing, but like I'm not hitting anything illegal.
Yeah.
And he starts headbutting me from reverse. And then the match ends. And Coach Borelli is like in my face telling me I'm a dirty wrestler and like I didn't deserve the win. And I'm like, dude, I should have gotten the tech fall. They didn't give me backs because you're trying to All-American a guy. Like, you should be more happy that I didn't tech fall the guy. Like, they missed points. It was just such a funny, like, match, like, interaction. Because, like, in the first period, I think I go, like, feet to back, 2 swipes, and then, like, another set of swipes. And the ref is counting 2. Literally looks at Mike Gray, just turns around and starts looking at Mike Gray. I turn him again. He's still looking at Mike Gray. They give me 2. They wave off the 2. And they don't give me any back points when I thought I should have had a 4 count or something crazy. It was just like they called and they're like, long ordeal. And then they just wiped it. Like, no points. I was like, what?
Wow.
Like, how do you do that? That's crazy.
So a very dramatic quarterfinal, dramatic blood round. And then what?
Yeah.
Then you maybe you wrestled one more that night and you won. Then you win.
Yeah, I wrestled Jared Franick.
Okay.
Later that night.
Yeah.
I remember I was actually really upset that I had not upset, but I was like, dang, I got another match tonight. And it was a long emotional day, just like from dreams getting trust to, All-American, which is, to some people that's just, everything they ever wanted. Like for me to like almost be like, you know what, Meyer, be grateful that you got to this point. And going into this match with Franick, I remember like warming up and him just looking so mad and just like looking like he just like it was a long day. And I like remember Mike like being loose and I just like very excited for some reason. Like at first I was like, this is a bad thing. And then like towards the end of it, I just kind of embraced it. And again, just wrestled very like high flying, like very excited, just putting multiple attacks together, but wrestling not to like win almost, just wrestling to like, to literally just show everyone that I could have won the tournament almost. Like it sounds like that kind of sounds stupid, but I wasn't really focused on beating Jared Franick. I was just like, I'm gonna go get like the coolest takedown I can. I'm gonna go out there and just wrestle as hard as I can, and if I lose and I get tired, that so be it. But like I'm gonna go out there and try to display my best stuff and show everybody, and then it ended up working better than wrestling conservative or being tight or
trying to win.
Having more of a worrying about the outcome of the match, which is, can be very detrimental.
Yeah, and that's what you hear the best people say that all the time, right? Just trying to score points and trying to get the next point, trying to enjoy the moment. So sounds like that's what you're able to do, and then you come back and you win on Saturday morning. Now you got Cardenas for third, the guy that ended your dream. Kind of and we're gonna pull that. It's just like maybe a minute and a half. It's the highlights from that match.
Yeah.
But what's your mentality as you're coming back to wrestle this guy for third place? And he beat you twice. I think he beat you at Vegas or something like that earlier in the year.
Yeah, you beat me at Vegas. That was my first loss too of the season, and that was a tough loss. But I remember at Nationals coming off the mat against Andonian and being like, "Oh, I got a pin. Like, I'm gonna feel fresh for this next round." Like, he definitely had a war, and I'm pretty sure Cardenas pinned whoever he had. I think it was Peyton Keller on the other side, and I was like, okay, still wrestling pretty good, and he pinned him way faster than I pinned my guy. Like, he pinned him in like literally it was like 32 seconds or something crazy, and I was like, well, all the emotions from that match was like, oh, I have to wrestle again. Oh, I got to wrestle him again. Kind of reset. Almost, I lay down for probably 30 minutes, feet against the wall, like literally covered my eyes, just like barely fell asleep. As soon as my alarm popped off, threw the headphones on, dialed in again, and just kind of like reminding myself, it's like, you have really nothing to lose, dude. Like, you thought you were more delusional about winning the tournament than All-American. So you just go out there and just like wrestle. And it was kind of also the approach of just getting takedowns. Like, I don't need to ride you out. I just think it's really hard, sometimes if you're not, necessarily game planning the ride, or, you can waste a lot of energy just trying to hold the dude down. So I just went out there. I'm like, I'm going to get a takedown. I'm going to cut him and I'm going to try to get another takedown. And that plan ended up, I would say, being better than not doing that, trying to get a takedown, riding him super hard. And then he gets out and now I'm exhausted. But kind of just the emotions of like going from, oh, awesome, I'm going for third. Oh, dang, I got the kid I lost to who just crushed my dreams. And he's still wrestling good. And I got to wrestle in like 30 minutes. So it was just a lot at once.
Yeah. All right, Josh, can we cue that video up and pull it on the screen here? But same thing as the other ones. This is shorter, but you can just kind of walk us through what you're thinking or anything you want to say about this.
Yeah, so he actually had a really nice snap down right here, and he went to go, and I thought I pulled that takedown pretty silly takedown. I thought I was in a really bad position, and I think he kind of like overextended himself. Then we get into kind of a scramble in here. And right here, I'm actually pretty relaxed because earlier in the season I had a really tough match against Max Brignola of Lehigh, and I did a terrible job scrambling, almost like just horrendous. Just try to hold on to ankles and stuff. And then I remember being super confident there, like just relaxed and like almost, sure that I was going to get that second like scrambly takedown. And then here I was just, end of period, trying to, inflict something a short time.
Oh, nice. That's great. And this is.
And I started hitting. I hit that shot a lot in that tournament.
What does this feel like? Now, season's over, right? Your dreams are crushed.
Yeah, it was
4 in a row, I think.
It was emotional, from going to, I'm going to be the guy to win, losing and then getting it done on the backside. It was just like without the people that were in my corner and the support system, that wouldn't have happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not even to say that I wouldn't have been delusional to the point where I've wanted to win. I think that's like, my own thing. But I just think the idea of coming back and the way, like just wrestling very, well, like it was the best I wrestled all year on the backside was right there. And I just think there was a lot of, things attached to the idea of me winning that national title. And I think that it restricted me from, wrestling how I really wanted to wrestle. I think that it made me wrestle conservative, not even conservative, but just didn't let me display what I've been trying to display my entire life. So it was, a great relief almost that I got it done. But at the same time, I remember like watching the awards or watching Levi and Ja'Cory wrestle and just being like, all two of those guys who made the finals. But I remember just being so like mad watching this finals. I was like, this is such a boring match. And like, it wasn't supposed to happen that way. You know what I mean? Like, and I felt like I messed it up. Like it was supposed to be me in the finals, and me watching the finals, like, it felt wrong. And it was just, just so like a very bittersweet experience. Like, wow, I did something really hard. At the same time, I didn't do the thing that I, promised myself I was going to do.